Hello, everybody. Thank you for the people who take the time out of their day to watch this. I really appreciate it. I am just a quick note off the top here. I am trying to make my video quality go up a little bit without actually having the money to purchase more equipment or anything. So I've turned my phone into my video recorder and then also my audio recorder, and what I'm going to try and do is do them separately. So I'll do a video, as you can see here, of just kind of myself doing something, or maybe something happening, something that's sort of mundane you can just put on in the background, and then have a voiceover that's maybe a little bit better audio quality. I can do it while I'm walking around, and you guys might get some better information, because I definitely think better when I'm not looking into a camera. So moving on into the subject. Okay, so today I kind of want to talk about tables, and by that I mean sort of go vaguely, or not vaguely, but surface level sort of into the idea of what is real and what is sort of made up by our consciousness, and is there a version of something that is perfect and higher above than the other lesser versions that we see and read about in real life, in our day-to-day life. And this was sort of a concept that was, I think, popularized by Socrates. That's what I always hear. So if anybody knows anything about Socrates, then you probably know more about this than me. But there's the idea that I've heard about that there is levels of a thing in perfect existence. So you have the most perfect thing, the ideal thing, that would be the pure distilled essence of, let's say, a table. And a table, if it's sort of what all other concepts and ideas and objects that we call table and think of as table come from. So this is the idea that there's a perfect form, a most real form of everything. And part of me agrees, part of me disagrees, but that'll come up later down the road, down the video. But for now, I can just say that the next step down is a physical table that you see, that someone has made. It's functional. You can use it. It doesn't matter if it's a Japanese style table where it's really low to the ground, or a standing table, a desk, a classic dinner table that is in a lot of the Western world. All of these are a physical representation of what a table is. And if someone from any people group in the world saw a table, they would look at it and understand, hey, this is a thing that you put stuff on, and it's got these things that I can sit on, and you know, we got those back home. So even though we don't speak the same language, or maybe mine looks different than yours, we know what this is. And so that's like the next level down of what a table is. And the next level down, according to, now I want to say Socrates, but I got my information from a guy who got his information from a book, who got its information from a translation, who got his information from, 2,000 years ago, whatever. So who got Anyways. And Socrates never wrote any of his own stuff down, so this was secondhand to begin with. But that's beside the point. The main point is that the next level of table is the written table. So someone writes about a table. I guess you could almost break this into two ideas, where someone writes the word table, so it's explicit, and then someone writes about a table, so it's sort of implicit. But either way, these are in no way tables, but they do conjure to mind the idea of a table-like object. And the next level down would be no table, or potentially there's something else in between. But okay, so I have a counter idea, a counter argument, and it's sort of the reason why I don't really believe in the idea of like a perfectly real objective table. Because if we think about it a little harder, someone's idea, let's say there's a table maker. He doesn't draw his idea of a table from the grand universal table dimension, or he may have an objectified, or it would be subjectified, but like a perfected idea of a table in his own mind. But that doesn't mean that he's drawn that from a parallel universe or an objective reality. Rather, that he has drawn that from his interpretations of the many tables he has seen through his life. And maybe at some point the many tables he has made through his life. And so he makes more and more tables. And as time goes on, his idea of what a good table is changes because he's made tables. But not because of an objective, ultimate reality table. So his concept of tables came from seeing tables, and those tables came from other people's concepts of tables, from seeing their own tables, and back and back and back. So in theory, there was a first table maker, or many, many first table makers around the world in various regions and cultures, and they made their own versions of their own tables, and throughout time that got passed down and traditionalized. And then if you go back a little further, I'm sure you could easily think the very first table was probably the stump of a tree. Someone took the stump of a tree, they put something on it to help raise it up a little bit so they could prepare it more easily. And then that at some point, when there was the tools and the time and the energy, someone took that idea of like, hey, this is a stump and it's functional, but it's like heavy, and maybe I want it a little bit bigger. So he cut up the stump into strips, and he constructed a table that was a little more functional. Maybe it was higher up or lower down. Maybe it was bigger, whether it was round still, or maybe he made it square because it's easier to make square things. Likely it was circular, because circular is sort of more natural shape. Square is actually kind of an unnatural shape, and it's probably the first tables were probably more round because of that, especially if they came from seeing stumps. So then we go back and back. And so instead of tables coming from the real, objective, true table, the ultimate table, we are actually at a point where, no, tables come from tree stumps. And we just slowly developed the idea as technology developed. We changed the table to suit our needs more and more. So, how do I actually believe in this idea of an objective reality table? Well, to me, it makes sense that there is a version of everything in my head. When I think of a birch tree, I have a very specific image in my head. Does it really look like a birch tree? Does it look like any one birch tree I've seen in my life? No. But it does. I would never say that it does not look like a birch tree. It certainly looks like a birch tree, just not a specific one. And it doesn't look like everybody else's idea of a birch tree. So I have my own subjective reality that's inside my mind that has built little versions of everything. My girlfriend, my family, my computer. When I think of computers, I think of one thing. When I think of engineering, I have a whole concept in my mind that just kind of subjectifies my idea of engineering, which is quite a large, that's a whole subject of study. It's a large topic in the world these days, a lot of information. But for me, engineering means something very specific. And so I have built that subjective mental model. And so in this way, I wouldn't say there's any objective, ideal, true engineering somewhere out in the universe. But I would say that each person does have a little universe in their mind, and that universe is populated with all these subjective ideas that we probably most likely think of as objective truths. We're like, oh yeah, engineering is this thing. For me, that's what I think of. And then that's what I tell people about when they ask. But is that really what engineering is? No, it's just my subjective mental model of it. And so that brings us over to the question of well, should we question our mental models? I mean, absolutely. Does it mean our mental models are incorrect? Not necessarily. They're probably not absolutely complete, because if they were absolutely complete, then they would actually be objective mental models. And anything that is a mental model cannot contain the whole of something, because that thing exists in and of itself. And so to be able to contain that whole in your imagination is impossible. You have to go experience that thing, and then you can take in a small piece of it. But all the same, we all have our own little universes in our head, and those universes have subjective ideas. And so coming back to the table, you, whoever you are, have a subjective mental model of table as a concept. And if you were to go build one, well, likely you would have a Pinterest board, and you would look at someone else's table or watch a YouTube video. So you would sort of make their idea of a table. But if you just made a table just purely off of your own mental model, it would come out looking somewhat like, based on your skill set, somewhat like the subjective mental model of table that you have. Yeah. So I would challenge everyone, including myself, to think about the mental models that you have built and observe them and challenge them. This could even be your focused meditation, is observing your mental models. Sorry, I was kind of out of breath. I'm walking and talking, and for some reason, I cannot seem to walk and talk these days without being out of breath. So, I don't know. Probably has something to do with the desk job and the smoking, but hey, it's all good. I didn't need these lungs anyways. No, but I hope the out of breathness didn't bother anyone. Anyways, thank you all. If anyone took the time out of the day to listen to this, I really appreciate it. And I hope that this has challenged someone. And, if you have some sort of idea or concept that you would like me to think about and challenge and make a little video about to discuss, then please let me know. And thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.